So thank you. Now our briefing panel will provide some insight into the work that will take place between now and September 14th. You don't know how long I've been waiting to say that date. I would like to introduce our briefing panel, who will now provide a quick update and who will be available for the Q&A session afterwards. John Mahoney, General Manager of Transportation Services. Jocelyn Beijing, Manager and Special Advisor to the GM. Michael Morgan, Director, Rail Construction Program. Troy Charter, Director, Transit Operations. Pat Scrimger, Director, Transit Customer Systems and Planning. Jim Hopkins, who is our Chief Safety Officer, and Kim McEwen, Manager of Business Support Services. This time, I'd like to invite John Mahoney to say a few words, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. We'd like to start off with a video that is focused on the single most important part of this element, and that's the customer. So we'll start the video, and then we'll go through various presentations, starting with Michael, then Mr. Charter, then myself, and then Mr. Scrimger, and then we'll open up for questions. Merci.
O-Train Line 1, the Confederation Line, will transform Ottawa's public transit into a truly multimodal system. Phase 1 of the new system connects 13 stations from Tunney's Pasture in the west to Blair in the east. 3 downtown stations and Saint-Laurent Station are underground. Customers connect with Line 1 by bus. Over 100 bus routes will connect to 10 of 13 Line 1 stations. You can also connect via the Line 2 train at Bayview Station, and by walking, mobility device, by bike, and via local streets and multi-use pathways. Les usagers pourront réparer et identifier les stations de la ligne 1 au moyen du symbole O, illuminé à l'entrée de chaque station. Les distributeurs automatiques de billets se trouvent à l'entrée de toutes les stations. Les passagers peuvent utiliser les distributeurs de billets pour charger leur carte Presto, acheter une nouvelle carte, vérifier le contenu de leur carte, acheter un aller simple, un laissez-passer quotidien, un laissez-passer de plusieurs jours ou un laissez-passer familial. Ils pourront toujours acheter et charger leur carte Presto en ligne, ainsi qu'aux endroits déjà existants. The ticket machines are simple and intuitive, with accessibility features and a built-in screen for video chat with OC Transpo customer service representatives. Each station has multiple fare gates, including an accessible fare gate with a lower card reader and wider spacing for customers using mobility devices, strollers, bicycles, and carrying luggage. Customers can tap their Presto card, UPass, STO multi-card, or scan a barcoded ticket or bus transfer to get through the gate. À l'intérieur de la station, des panneaux indicateurs aident les passagers à trouver facilement leur plateforme et leur prochaine heure de départ est clairement affichée sur des écrans informatifs numériques. Des ascenseurs doublent dans toutes les 13 stations ainsi que des escaliers roulants dans la plupart des stations. Les stations sont entièrement accessibles avec panneaux tactiles et en braille, des bandes podotactiles et des bandes de signalisation tactile le long des quais. Area maps at each station show customers the most popular destinations within a 5-minute walk. Tunney's Pasture, Bayview, Herdman, and Blair stations all have public washrooms. Once through a fare gate, customers will be in a fare-paid zone and do not need to tap or show their fare again to board the train. Les plateformes des trains ont une longueur de 100 mètres, ce qui procure suffisamment d'espace pour l'embarquement, même en période de pointe. Des boucles de circulation d'autobus intégrées et des zones d'accès contrôlées dans 3 stations importantes, Tunney's Pasture, Herdman et Blair, permettront d'effectuer des liaisons plus facilement et plus rapidement. Les usagers effectuant une correspondance sur la plupart des circuits d'autobus débarqueront dans une zone d'accès contrôlée et pourront se diriger directement vers leur plateforme. Et dès qu'ils quitteront le train, ils pourront marcher directement vers leur autobus sans avoir à passer leur carte dans le lecteur ou à balayer leur billet. À la station Bayview, les plateformes de train pour les lignes 1 et 2 seront à l'intérieur de la zone d'accès contrôlée pour faciliter les correspondances. Lion Station will be the major hub for connecting to and from STO buses, though some will also connect at Parliament and Tunney's Pasture stations. The STO Multi-Smart Card with a monthly pass or transfer will continue to work on train fare gates and buses. Bus arrival stops are located near station entrances to minimize walking distances and will be organized by destination using alpha identifiers. Next bus departure information will be displayed on video screens near each stop. Les stations offriront du stationnement pour les vélos et des dallos à vélo, goulottes, permettront aux usagers de transporter facilement leurs vélos lorsqu'ils monteront et descendront les escaliers. Lorsqu'ils monteront à bord du train avec leur vélo, les passagers attendront dans la zone verte désignée sur la plateforme de la station et entreront par la première porte de la première voiture du train. Ils occuperont la section des sièges prioritaires à l'extrémité avant du train.
Line 1 trains operate from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. Monday through Thursday, 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sundays.
Trains arrive every 5 minutes or less during peak times, frequently throughout the day, and every 15 minutes or less after 11 p.m. End-to-end travel time on Line 1 is under 25 minutes. Lorsque les trains ne rouleront pas durant la nuit, 6 circuits rapides se prolongeront jusqu'à la station Rideau au centre-ville. Les trains de la ligne 1 sont spacieux et confortables. Ils atteignent presque 100 mètres de longueur et peuvent accueillir 600 passagers. L'embarquement sera facile et rapide grâce aux 14 portes doubles de chaque côté du train. À l'intérieur du train, les prochaines stations sont annoncées de manière visuelle et audible, afin que les passagers puissent se préparer à débarquer. When the train stops at the station, customers can open the train doors from the inside or outside by pressing the green button on the door when it lights up. Trains are built for Ottawa's climate, with extra insulation, double-glazed panoramic windows, and slip-resistant, low-glare heated floors and air conditioning. Trains are accessible, with entrances level with station platforms, cooperative seating areas beside each door, and door controls and intercoms at accessible heights. And the trains are environmentally friendly, 100% electric with zero emissions and a regenerative braking system that provides power to other trains on the line. La sécurité est primordiale, aussi bien dans les trains que dans les stations. Tous les trains ont à bord des interphones d'urgence pour communiquer avec le conducteur et sont munis de barres d'appui à haute visibilité. Toutes les stations sont à air ouverte et sont bien éclairées. Les trains et les stations sont surveillés en tout temps par des caméras. Les aires d'attente Transecure dans les stations et sur les quais ont des téléphones d'urgence. Detailed emergency evacuation plans and egress routes have been established, and in the event of an emergency, signs and audio announcements on trains and in stations will direct customers to emergency exits. Special constables and other staff monitor and patrol the entire length of the system and will assist customers in the event of an emergency. In the event of a service disruption on Line 1, such as an unplanned station closure, R1 bus service will provide replacement transportation from station to station until the O train resumes normal operations. Customers will be notified of service disruptions by on-site staff and a variety of announcements, information screens, social media, octranspo.com, and others. During the launch of Line 1, hundreds of OC Transpo staff will be working at stations to assist customers to navigate stations and to assist with bus route changes. As noted earlier, customers will also be able to access information phones in Line 1 stations and video chat on ticket machines. In fact, all OC Transpo customer service channels will be available to assist customers traveling by train or bus. Voici quelques conseils pour que l'eau-train soit une expérience positive pour tout le monde. Marchez au lieu de courir près d'un train ou d'un autobus. Courir n'est jamais un choix sécuritaire. Le train sera retardé si les portes sont retenues ou bloquées. Et cela est dangereux. Laissez les gens sortir du train avant d'embarquer. Never ever step on the track, even to get your smartphone back. Call OC Transpo staff for help. In fact, look for OC Transpo staff anytime. We're here to help. We encourage you to check the online Ready for Rail travel planner to see how you'll go with OC Transpo once Line 1 service launches. Most customers will ride Line 1 as part of their commute. The O-Train Confederation Line 1 is coming. We hope this presentation has helped you get ready for rail.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Based on the completion of trial running, I am pleased to discuss the next steps towards revenue service availability. Radio Transit Group will now undertake to submit summary documentation and a package of final safety documentation for the revenue service availability milestone. This documentation is a final consolidation of design, construction, quality assurance, testing, and safety analyses that have been completed on the project since its inception. Some examples of this include certification of substantial completion of the civic works for a number of secondary projects, including utilities and roadworks. This work was certified by the independent certifier on June 20th, 2019. Documentation confirming compliance with testing and commissioning requirements of the project agreement, culminating in the completion of trial running as achieved this week. A series of final contractual deliverables, including the receipt of bill of sale for the vehicles and other fixed equipment warranties. And lastly, but most importantly, compliance with all safety requirements as approved and documented by TUV, acting as the city's independent safety auditor. As part of our contract with Radio Transit Group, they are responsible for providing safety certification of the complete integrated system. The safety documentation provided by RTG and their safety teams up until this point in time has been reviewed by an independent safety auditor on an ongoing basis to ensure that we are working towards a final integrated solution that will meet industry standards for safety. Dans le cadre de notre contrat avec Radio Transit Group, ces derniers ont la responsabilité de fournir la certification en matière de sécurité du système intégré complet. Les documents de sécurité fournis par Radio Transit Group et leurs équipes de sécurité jusqu'à présent ont été examinés par un vérificateur indépendant de sécurité sur une base continue afin d'assurer que nous travaillons en vue d'obtenir un système intégré complet qui répondra aux normes de sécurité de l'industrie. The independent safety auditor team has been actively reviewing design submissions, test reports, hazard logs, and other safety documents since mid-2017 and has been providing safety and compliance feedback on an ongoing basis throughout the course of their involvement in the project. Their role is to provide an independent view on the overall light rail project to ensure that we deliver a system that is safe. Critically, the final confirmation by this team is required for RTG to achieve revenue service availability. L'équipe du vérificateur indépendant de sécurité a examiné activement le dessin proposé, les rapports d'essai, les registres de risques et d'autres documents de sécurité depuis le milieu de l'année 2017 et a fourni des commentaires de sécurité et de conformité sur une base continue tout au long de leur participation au projet. Leur rôle consiste à fournir un point de vue indépendant sur le projet du terrain léger en général afin de veiller à ce que nous livrions un système qui est sûr. Essentiellement, la confirmation finale de l'équipe est requise pour que Radio Transit Group atteigne la mise en disponibilité du service payant. We do not anticipate any issues or concerns that put the timelines at risk. Pending the delivery of evidence to demonstrate compliance with the items previously mentioned, including sign-off by the independent safety auditor, the independent certifier will need to confirm the achievement of revenue service availability. The completion of the milestone will trigger the construction period payment of $202 million, less the following items. A $1 million charge for missing the August 16th RSA date. Approximately $35 million set off for city costs, including the mobility matters payment, land rentals, and other matters which require a final calculation based on the actual RSA date, and any other holdbacks for contractual or negotiated items. This payment will be made 5 days after the independent certifier certifies the achievement of the revenue availability service milestone. Following the items just mentioned, the handover to the city will be complete and the maintenance term will begin. We anticipate all of this work to be completed by the end of next week. The preparatory work that the city needs will begin immediately and is not restricted by the remaining procedural matters. Upon completion of these tasks, the system is handed over to RTM to maintain, and they are managed per the project agreement revenue service requirements. Following revenue service availability, the city will have a small team dedicated to tracking a minor deficiency list, which is a specific list of outstanding items as defined by the independent certifier, which are to be completed in order for RTG to achieve final completion. Final completion reflects the last construction period activity and closeout of construction. I will now hand it over to Troy Charter, who will discuss next steps for readiness of OC Transpo.
Thank you, Michael. Now that trial running is complete, the Transportation Services Department will be undertaking the final preparatory works in advance of the September 14th launch. Over the next 3 weeks, OC Transpo will be conducting technical drills, validating operational practices, and will complete final station and vehicle familiarization. All of this will be done with the focus of safety and customer service at the forefront. These activities will include over 90 operational drills, dress rehearsals, customer service staff training, and familiarization, as well as familiarization for various stakeholders groups. Various service areas from across the department will be included in these activities, as well as representatives from other services such as Ottawa Fire, Paramedic, and Police Services, and our long-term maintainer of the Line 1 system, the Rideau Transit Maintenance Group. The purpose of the dress rehearsals will be to simulate customers using the system and providing us that final fresh set of eyes in order to ensure a seamless customer experience. This includes using the fare gates, simulating full and partial train loads, reviewing signage, and passenger flows between bus and rail. Additionally, the technical drills will not only reinforce staff training, but will also give us an opportunity to practice and evaluate our procedures. The technical drills will range in complexity and are based on guidance from industry experts. Several drills were identified as common for rail operations, where staff will need to become proficient and effective in their response. The goal is to prepare staff from across the organization for regular service and practice responding to various planned and unplanned scenarios. It allows us the opportunity to reconfirm everything we've done so far, ensure that all of our scenarios and responses are mapped out. A key focus during these drills will be ensuring an integrated customer journey. One of the major drills we'll complete is an evacuation exercise where our emergency first responders will be engaged in a live simulation at an underground station. We will also be practicing the activation of our Transit Service Command Center, which serves to maintain operations in the event of a service disruption or an emergency. Additionally, during this 3-week preparatory period, staff who will be assisting customers will be familiarizing themselves with all the unique station features. This includes our transit supervisors, superintendents, controllers, special constables, customer service representatives, and our O-Train ambassadors, amongst other staff. I would also like to thank our stakeholders who have been involved in the design and planning phases, and now we're looking forward to getting them into the stations and onto the trains. We are committed to continuing to work with our key partners and stakeholders in the community to prepare them for O-Train Line 1. Starting next week, we'll be inviting these stakeholder groups and partners to schedule tours of the trains and various stations prior to opening. These tours will ensure groups who provide training and information to customers with accessibility requirements have early access to familiarize themselves with the new system. The CNIB, Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, Council on Aging of Ottawa, WISE, Canadian Hearing Society are just some of the stakeholder groups that will be invited to participate in the pre-launch familiarization visits. And now, before I turn things over to Mr. Mahoney, I'd just like to say that at the end of this 3-week period, staff are very excited and look forward to welcoming our customers on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. I'm now going to talk to you about trial running. The purpose of trial running is to confirm the readiness of the system for revenue service. The process, monitoring, and results are evaluated by a review team, which is comprised of the independent certifier, RTG, the consortium, OLRTC, which is the constructor, RTM, the maintainer of the system, O-Train city staff, and OC Transpo city staff. During the entire process, the city's panel of experts who have tested and commissioned several systems around the world were involved in all aspects of testing and participated in trial running. The testing is viewed through 6 lenses: safety, stations, customer-facing systems, major operational systems, operations, and maintenance. I'm happy to confirm that during the entire testing period that commenced on July 29th, we have had a solid safety record. No incidents, no safety infractions, or safety concerns. A reminder that as part of achieving RSA, the independent safety auditor will be signing off, acknowledging that the safety team has no concerns. All 13 stations are completed, including all elements that contribute to a positive customer experience. Over the course of trial running, we have had field teams inspecting stations on a daily basis in order to identify items for repair or new items that are in need of maintenance. RTG is responsible for costs of all maintenance and will be tackling these issues immediately. Broadly speaking, All that remains is a deep clean to ensure the stations are spotless for our customers. Trial running included the testing of the remote opening and closing functionality of the 52 coil grills at all 13 stations. All 59 elevators were commissioned, tested, and ready for operation. All 47 escalators were also commissioned, tested, and ready for operation. With respect to customer-facing systems, I can confirm that all customer systems are functioning reliably and consistently, including 65 passenger information display units indicating next train arrival, 137 fare gates, and 56 ticket machines. All major operational systems were assessed during the trial running and are functioning as designed. This includes tunnel ventilation systems used in the 4 underground stations, 10 power substations that provide power to the trains, 1,200 closed-circuit television cameras, 191 emergency telephone stations, 23 fire alarm control panels, which provide fire monitoring and suppression at each station, power substation, and the control center, and 130 radios used by staff throughout the systems, the stations, and the underground and the tunnel. With respect to operations, commencing on July 29th, we have assessed various elements including vehicles, guideway tracks, catenary, power systems, guideway detection systems, etc. Over the 25 days of trial running, we've operated our weekday schedule 19 times, exercising our AM and PM peak periods, ramp up and ramp down of vehicles. We've also run on weekend schedules a total of 6 times. We have operated the system over 258,000 kilometers, which equates to 10,900 trips during this period. During trial running, we witnessed rail operations that provided 500 daily trips during weekday service, over 400 trips on Saturday service, and over 300 trips on Sunday service. As with all trial running testing that is conducted on systems around the world, the testing period included a mixture of positive days and some challenging days. The challenging days were reviewed and lessons learned were taken in by all parties. The trial running demonstrated the ability of RTG to deliver various train configurations for various service scenarios, including 15 double trains, 13 double trains, 11 double trains, used to match up with the various service demands, all achieving the service frequencies required for time of day, day of week, and so forth. The city's current requirement to meet ridership demand is 13 double trains, ensuring that the trains arrive in under 5 minutes frequency during rush hour periods, and they have demonstrated this. Under the project agreement, it is specified that trial running of the system will be demonstrated that the specified travel times, headways, and operational performance requirements can be achieved. The agreement also requires that RTG verify that there are no deficiencies to prevent safe running of the system and that there are adequate staff trained to operate and maintain the system. To this end, the requirements of the contract have been satisfied. The project agreement did not specify pass-fail criteria to be used for trial running. The city established targets for operations that were based on industry best practices and focused on the 2 most important criteria: safety and dependability for the customer. For example, the city target was 96% dependability over 9 of the 12 continuous running days, using various measurements across all the 6 lenses that I noted earlier. RTG, as part of their test plans, indicated they wanted to not only meet these targets, but exceed them. RTG targeted a figure of 98% for service availability and wanted to assess if they could reach 98% for the entire 12-day period. I can advise that RTG has achieved 97%, 96.7 to be exact, availability over a 9-day period as of Monday, August 19th, which is in line with the city's expectations. Based on the continued operation of the system through to yesterday, we can confirm that 12 days of trial running have been completed, and days 10, 11, and 12 achieved scores of 97, 99, and 97%. With respect to maintenance, all aspects of RTM's ability to manage the vehicles, guideway, systems, etc., was part of the trial running. Everything from staff rosters, vehicle inspections, vehicle maintenance, response to in-field issues with vehicles or track, systems, and stations openings and closings of the system were assessed. Areas that were identified for improvement in this area relate to processes, work management, and resource gaps. RTM is addressing them with continued oversight by the city's rail maintenance expertise. RTG can now begin the final steps for completion of the revenue service availability milestone. This will include final sign-off by the city independent safety auditor and confirmation by the independent certifier that the milestone has been achieved. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the residents of Ottawa for their patience and understanding. As we strive collectively to expand mobility in this great city of ours, contributions and demands from many people were, are, and will be needed to enable us to deliver the Confederation Line Stage 1 and Stage 2. To our customers, you've endured detours, schedule changes, and many other service challenges. Your continued loyalty to our service is appreciated. Everyone at OC Transpo values our customers very much at OC, and we can't wait to provide you very soon a world-class light rail system integrated with our bus system and para-transpo service. During the next 3 weeks, the Transportation Department focus is to prepare the rail system for the opening of the Confederation Line for our customers. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our department for their unrelenting commitment to this project. The unbelievable work they've accomplished continues to be a testimony of their dedication in delivering a rail system to the City of Ottawa. No transit agency can claim perfection delivering a rail system, and we are no exception, but we promise the residents of Ottawa that staff will deliver a safe and dependable system. All the branches of the department are involved in the readiness of the launch and post-launch activities, such as the expanded bus service that Council has invested in, elimination of the transit detours. Everyone is working long, hard hours with pride and commitment. Thank you. Merci.
The new O-Train line, its trains, its stations, and the new bus route network were all designed and built with our customers' needs as the first priority. We spoke with customers. We had customers with a complete range of abilities help us to make design choices. We used years of customer travel data. We looked at best practices around the world and how those could best be applied in Ottawa. Customers told us what was important to them and what they needed to know to be prepared for their new journey on the system, and that directed the work we did to meet their needs. Customers told us they needed to know about bus routes and stations, bus, bike, and walking connections, transferring between trains and buses, waiting times and the frequency of service, how to plan their travel, how to pay their fares, how to board and ride the trains, the accessibility features of the trains and stations, and the safety and security features of the trains and stations. We've been providing introductory information on these themes in the Ready for Rail campaign and in the video you saw earlier, and we'll be continuing to support customers in the weeks to come. The opening of Line 1 and the major changes to the bus route network that follow will be the largest service change ever for OC Transpo customers. There are 4 key dates in the transition to the new service. On September 1st, schedules on some bus routes will be changing as we return to regular service levels after the summer.
On September 14th, our new O-Train line opens for regular service. There'll be no change to bus routes at that time. On October 1st, as Council has decided, the fare freeze will end and the 2019 transit fares will come into effect. And on October 6th, the new bus route network, integrated with the O-Train, will begin, along with service expansion and enhancements in many parts of the city. About 2/3 of all ridership, around 200,000 trips a day, will include travel on the O-Train. Bus routes from all parts of the city connect directly with the station on Line 1. Our focus over the next few weeks is to introduce OC Transpo customers to their new O-Train line. It's a really big service change, the biggest change ever at OC Transpo, and it's a positive change. We're ready to help customers at every point along their journey. We have a new website and an improved iPhone app for information about our train and bus services. We're mailing information directly to every address in Ottawa about the new O-Train line, how it works, and how to use it. We will have staff at all stations along Line 1 through all hours of the day to answer questions from customers and to help them with the new train service and later on with the new bus services. We have an information campaign starting on the day Line 1 opens that will give customers information about how to stay safe in the stations and on the trains and how to remain considerate of their fellow passengers. This is how we're helping customers get ready for the new service so that after it opens, the new line will be familiar and will just be a regular part of every customer's daily journey. Welcome aboard, Ottawa.
Thank you, Pat. Merci. Les membres du Conseil auront maintenant l'occasion de poser des questions. Suite aux questions des conseillers, la parole sera donnée aux médias. Members of Council will now have an opportunity to ask questions. Following questions from councillors, the floor will be open to media. And my colleague Danielle, just over there, will be available to pass the mic.
Thank you very much. This is obviously an extremely exciting day. September 14th can't come soon enough. We've just gotten off the train ride that we were privileged to have this afternoon. This is going to be a game changer for the city. I don't think Ottawans are going to see the city the same way again. Congratulations. I am thrilled to be as close as we are to getting City of Ottawa residents on that train. I do have some questions about the briefing that we just heard. Mr. Mahoney, you spoke about the 98% or 96.7% targets being met over the first 9 days. Day 10, we've met 97, day 11, 99, 12, 97. What exactly do those metrics mean, and how are they calculated?
The metrics are calculated over a score sheet that has those 6 elements that I talked to you about in the opening comments. That group that I said in the introductory comments review all of the results. Everything is counted, monitored, scored, and analyzed. And the independent certifier is in the room reviewing that with them, monitoring all the activities. So there is a predetermined score sheet that looks at all of those numbers. So, for example, in terms of number of throughputs, in terms of number of trips they have to deliver in the morning rush hour, number of trains, configurations. So did they meet their morning rush hour count? Did they meet the afternoon rush hour count? Were the trains on time launching from the yard? Did all the stations open up? Were they available? Did all the elements work and function? Everything is scored and then tallied up, and they have to reach certain thresholds with service being the most important one. If you don't have the trains, everything else could be perfect. So what you're really watching for is what's the dependability of your service, irrespective of whether it's Ottawa or Montreal or New York or whatever the agency is.
So on day 10, for example, we met 97%. Can we infer from that 3% of trips weren't made, or there's going to be a variety of factors that lead to that 3% that was missing from the 100?
It could be a variety of things, but service drives the majority of that scorecard. That's what you want for your customers. Service and for example, on safety, there's a criteria that says if you have this type of a safety infraction, you've lost the day. It doesn't even, you'll get a 0.
Sure.
So.
I was a little surprised to hear talk about 13 double trains running. We've heard a lot about the need for 15 trains plus the additional 2 doubles as a spare. Has something changed? Do we continue to expect that 15 trains are still needed, and have we achieved the availability of those through the testing?
They have run 15 double trains, as I said in my notes. You have 15 trains. That's what the number of trains that the bidders provided to us. Remember, we've never specified the number of trains. You don't want to own that count. You want to own the service. So we're chasing the end-to-end trip times that I know everybody was logging on their phones. So did you meet that? Do you meet the under 5-minute service curve and so forth? And so 15 was the forecast when this bid went out. The ridership, as you know, went down dramatically. You don't need to be running 15 trips in the morning or afternoon rush hour to meet the service requirements. And remember, the more you put out there, the more it costs us. So 13 trips will handle that, but you do have the 15 trips. They did the 15 double trains, and we witnessed that on numerous days.
Thank you. One last question for you. We've seen a fair bit in the media about the noise level from Merton to Parkdale. You and I have spoken about it, and I appreciate your commitment to addressing that. But I would ask on the record, what is the city's commitment to bringing the noise level down through that stretch?
Mr. Morgan has hired a specialist in this field who has a PhD in rail wheel interface noise, exactly the situation that you're encountering there. He has a very good plan that they've put together, and the city is committed to addressing those noises. We've even had our external experts comment on it, that it is something that can be addressed. There's other things that I know RTG is doing also in advance of any modifications to the rail interface points down on the ties and so forth. But Councillor, you have our commitment that we're doing everything we can to resolve that. It seems to be a very high level of confidence that we can address that. It is a timing issue. I don't have a schedule for you on that, but we're going to be working with you and your community. And I know the mayor and the chair have been briefed on that, and they're fully supportive also.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you. Could I echo my colleagues' congratulations? This is really a momentous day, and I think we're all really quite excited. I just wanted to get some clarification on one thing. Mr. Morgan was saying that the trial running was achieved this week. Is that accurate? But just this week we completed the trial running. Okay.
Based on the requirement for 9 out of 12, that particular threshold was met on Monday. The 12th day was yesterday, so that as of yesterday, it's essentially complete.
What isn't clear, though, I think under the contract we were supposed to run the trains for 12 consecutive, run them 12 successfully consecutive or consecutive successful days. Is that in fact the case, or is it 9? Did we reset after 9? What has happened?
No, there's a couple of different thresholds. We wanted to see 96 and 98 over 9 out of the 12 days, but we needed to run the entire 12 days, so we've run the entire 12 days, and we've achieved that average that John mentioned over that entire 12-day period.
So we would view it as 12 successful days, consecutive days, and there's been no change in that.
They ran the 12 days, they did the 9 out of 12, and then within that criteria, because I know I've seen the tweets and we've changed things and so forth, the documents permit things like reset day, full fail days, like I mentioned on safety and so forth. You can do repeat days, and in this particular run of getting to the Monday, there was 2 repeat days, which the rating team did invoke their rights to do that. You're allowed to do 3 repeat days before we have to do a restart. And I can fully disclose now that at the beginning of this trial running period, back in, what did I say, the beginning was July 29th, they started, RTG started, didn't do well, and we reset them. So there have been resets throughout the period. That's why it's taken the amount of time that it has taken. So there is a bunch of criteria within the within the testing regime. There are things that can be permitted to do and not do. And as I said before we even launched all this, there's ways to pass days, ways to fail days, ways to reset days, and ways to restart the whole process.
Okay. It sounds, while the September the 14th is a day that we eagerly await, sounds like there's still a significant amount of work that still has to be done before then. We've got some safety things. We've got to run the trains with full loads, that sort of thing. Is there any concern about that?
No, we have every single drill mapped out by day, by hour. There's a whole team, and we waste no time. We're starting that tomorrow morning. Our volunteers are onboarded and trained and so forth. As Mr. Charter said, people have been scheduled, so there's no concern. On the safety piece,
So there is the trial running is one of the last tests that needs to be done, and so that report and those results need to be consolidated and submitted. There's a little bit of extra paperwork that we need from Rideau Transit Group to provide to the independent safety auditor, and then at that point we would process the RSA milestone. So that's scheduled in the next couple of days. I know Peter Louch from RTG, I spoke to him this morning. He was looking to get that to us by Monday. So we'll check with that, and we'll check back with you the minute we kind of confirm that RSA has been achieved.
Councillor Brockington?
Thank you. Before today, my impression and understanding was quite clear that we would not accept the system until we've had 12 consecutive days error-free. And today I'm hearing a different explanation. There's more content to that explanation, but I was always under the impression it had to be 12 consecutive days. So how do I explain this to my community?
there is no such thing as an error-free rail system around the world. We set targets of 96% dependability. You can go online and take a look at those pieces, Councillor, and we'd be happy to help you out on that regard. As I said, our objective was 96%. RTG came forward with an even higher standard. There are some days that they even exceeded that. There were some 99 days and so forth. But you cannot have 100% on any railroad system anywhere in the world on dependability in terms of that. You will always have some things, whether it's a door that's held, whether it's an issue, system issue, and so forth.
Will you be providing members of council with like a Q&A package that has some of the details that we can share with them? I know I'm going to be getting questions, so it'd be good if something could be made available.
Absolutely, Councillor. Happy to help out.
Just to go back, I believe at your last briefing at FEDCO, you were elaborating on some of the issues that caused the most recent delay. You were talking about the brakes, the doors. We asked questions again about the winter ops. Can you just go back to those three things again and give us 100% assurances about the doors, brakes, and in particular winter operations? That keeps getting asked in the public when I'm at public meetings.
Yes, the brake issues, I'm going to get Mr. Morgan to go back and, well, right now he can address it in terms of all those elements that were retrofitted and where we are with that, and also comment on the winter plan.
So I don't know if it was the last FEDCO, the one before that, we talked about a brake modification program needing to be done. There was this particular valve that was on all of the brake control units which needed to be replaced. There was a number of those that were required to be finished prior to substantial completion. So it wasn't until we had comfort that the brakes and the doors and a variety of issues had been resolved that we were comfortable actually giving them that particular milestone. They did those things. They put the retrofit programs in place to change out the valves on the brakes and some other things, to go through and do the door alignment and adjustments, and to go through and do essentially the last thing to do on the winter plan was a retrofit of the switch heaters. The switches are used to move the trains from kind of one track to the other at the end of the line. It's important that those are working correctly in order to be able to keep the service running. They did have a retrofit program on the switch heaters, which was kind of the last thing that we needed to see completed in order to have comfort that the system would run correctly in those conditions.
Councillor Eglay?
Thank you very much. Mr. Mahoney, first of all, congratulations to the whole team. You and I have had many discussions when I was previously the chair of transportation on this project, and I know how hard everybody has worked on this, so well done. I just had a quick follow-up to Councillor Leeper's line of questioning, where he's asking about, well, if it's 96.7 or 98, what does that mean? Did 3% of the trains not show up on time, that sort of thing? What I'd like to hear is it doesn't mean that we had 3% less safety elements built in, or that 100% of our safety elements didn't work. Because what I hear from the people that I speak to is, related to the delays, not all that concerned about the delays as long as we're delivering to them a system that is as safe as it can possibly be. So when we're scoring less than 100, is that on factors other than safety, or is safety rolled into that as well?
No, you're correct, Councillor. The safety, the threshold is very, very high. There's literally no tolerance for that at all. And as I said earlier, if there's any safety incident, it's not just a failed day, it's a restart. Both Alstom, RTG, OLRTC have a very, very strong focus on safety. We have a Chief Safety Officer, Mr. Hopkins, at the end. He ran the Vancouver line. You invested in that very, very heavily. That was a brand new position that reports to me. He can, at his sole discretion, stop any part of this operation any time of the day. He doesn't have to ask anybody. He doesn't even have to ask me. That's how serious we take safety. Also, you will have the independent safety reviewer that reports to council. We're doing their annual report. We go into revenue service. He does his reviews and brings you the equivalent to an audit report that's independent. Does not interact with me. The only person he's permitted to interact with is the city manager. And so that's another oversight role on that. And we have the independent safety auditor that's part of the project, and the independent certifier. So there's a number of checks and balances in that. And so safety's at the top, and if there's a lower score, it's generally on anything related to if there was a trip that got paused and didn't meet the service time or the headway.
So just to boil it right down, you had 12 days of a safely running train.
The team and the rating team and this management team has no concerns with safety with the system.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Fleury?
Premièrement, moi aussi, j'aimerais féliciter toute l'équipe, les partenaires qui ont collaboré toutes les années. J'aimerais tout spécifiquement dans mon quartier faire mention de l'Université d'Ottawa qui a été un partenaire clé, puis le Centre Rideau aussi dans tous les processus. Félicitations à l'équipe. Je suis sûr, moi aussi, ayant eu la chance de le voir aujourd'hui que c'est transformatif. Je le croyais quand on l'a bâti. J'ai eu les hauts et les bas, si on veut, avec les affaissements de les rues, tout ça, mais vraiment, on voit jusqu'à quel point c'est transformatif, puis comment tout a été mis en place pour que ce soit un succès. Puis j'espère qu'on va continuer à garder l'œil sur les usagers. Je pense que ça a été un message clé de M. Charter et de vous, M. Mahoney, il y a quelques instants. J'ai 3 questions qui s'interrelient. La première, vous avez mentionné quelques chiffres là, au niveau du montant total de kilomètres qui a été parcouru durant la période d'essai. Pourriez-vous juste le reconfirmer, le montant total de kilomètres parcourus durant la période d'essai? Puis peut-être nous donner un point de référence là, sur qu'est-ce que ça veut dire concrètement sur une journée réelle, là, combien de kilomètres on ferait dans notre période maximale?
Alors, le total pour quand on fait le test, c'était 258 000 kilomètres. On a marché avec les trains légers. On a fait presque 11 000 trips, voyages, total. Et dans lundi et vendredi, on fait 500 trips chaque jour.
OK, excellent. 258 000, hein, je voulais bien clarifier. C'est impressionnant. OK.
Oui.
Puis, les 2 autres éléments, c'est vraiment des questions d'intégration du réseau. Je ne vous ai pas entendu beaucoup sur la STO. On comprend les éléments d'intégration, mais je veux comprendre, moi, le 14 septembre, quelqu'un qui est résident d'Ottawa, qui traverse, ça veut dire quoi? Puis quelqu'un qui vient de Gatineau, qui a besoin de sauter sur le train léger, ça veut dire quoi? Pourriez-vous peut-être nous détailler ça?
Alors, je vais faire la transition à M. Scrimgeour, il parle anglais, si c'est propre. Did you understand the question?
Pat understands very well, yeah.
Merci. The STO is ready to change their bus route network to integrate more completely with the O-Train line. They have not yet set a date for that change. We will be notifying them of the day announced today, and we'll be working with them over the weeks and months to come to choose a day when they can more tightly integrate their bus routes with the O-Train line. Between now and then, however, the STO bus routes remain as they are today, all very well connected, sometimes within about a one-block walk from the nearest O-Train station. And we continue to have full integration with STO fares. The STO multi-card works at all the fare gates to enter into the O-Train stations, and the Presto cards continue to work to board STO buses.
So just as a follow-up, I recognize what you're saying, but is our goal to push STO to fully integrate to the goals of the line station prior to the end of the year? Like, what's a fair timeline there?
We'll be working with them on the timing.
Can we establish what the City of Ottawa and OC Transpo's goals are in that?
Councillor, I've expressed to them the desire to make that happen sooner or later. What I do respect for them, just like us, there's been numerous dates that we've contemplated. We have to be sensitive to their logistics on their side, also in terms of when they book work, do the customer change notifications and so forth. I can tell you that all of us want it sooner rather than later, including STO. They want to get there too. But as soon as I have a date, we will articulate that to you and to the rest of the council.
Okay.
They were waiting for this announcement, and as you can tell, we now have a date. We will share that with them. I've committed to them to work through it very carefully because it's a big change for them in terms of their operation.
Okay, and then kind of in the same vein of ideas, the idea of the existing 90 circuits that use the Nicholas off-ramp and so on, what's the date for that to come off? I'm not saying the reinstatement of the on and off ramps, but the actual service. And then the final piece to that, and that'll be the wrap up of my question, relates to the new bus routes. There's a series of new bus routes that are queued to come in once the LRT opens. For me, for example, the 15 to supplement the 12 service. Have you set a date for those?
I'll start with the detours, and then I'll ask Mr. Scrimgeour to talk about the bus service. So Phil Landry, our traffic director, is part of our operations readiness team. He is putting together a systematic plan as to how we sequence the detours. The first will be the one in the East End, and then we step through it. It is going to take some time because it's complicated, a lot of work involved. So he's mapping those all out. Now that he has a date, he's overlaying all the other construction activities and understands the priority for all of you in your wards. And because there's a lot of impact citywide, irrespective of where the commute is coming from and in what mode. So that plan is coming forward in the coming weeks. Pat, on service?
And the bus routes will continue as they are. There's a schedule change on many routes as we return to regular service after the summer, coming on the Labor Day weekend. The bus routes continue up until Saturday, October 5th. And on Saturday, October 6th, which is 3 weeks, Sunday, October 6th, which is 3 weeks after the O-Train Line 1 has opened, all of the bus routes will change to more closely integrate with the O-Train stations, to remove the parallel part between Blair and Tunney's Pasture and all those buses that are currently using Nicholas and Laurier Station, and the new bus routes in all parts of the city, including the 15 and the 56 in your ward, will start either on Sunday, October 6th, or for the Monday to Friday services like those two routes, the day after on Monday, October 7th.
Wherever I travel, the thing I want to do is test out other cities, and I've had LRT envy for a long time. It's something that I've been wanting for our city, and we're finally getting it, so I'm really happy about that. It's an exciting time, but for my constituents, the concern is terms of the reliability of getting on that 87, and pardon me if the name has changed, but and getting to the station. They want to know, is it going to be reliable? Because there was some issues in the past months, particularly during the winter, where the bus didn't come. And I hear that about the other buses as well, number 11, just missed ones. And that's what they want to know. They want to know about the reliability of those buses that's taking them to that train. And we're hearing lots of good things about the train, but that's the issue that's still outstanding in terms of their concern to get them to feel that this is, you know, when I get to that bus stop, it's going to take me to the train.
The service that we're running now is obviously on detour and is all over for construction reasons, and has been less reliable than usual as a result. The service that we were running before the construction started had stabilized at a certain level of reliability, but that was influenced very much by the traffic and the customer activity through downtown. Between 2/3 and 3/4 of all of the variability in travel time on all bus routes is generated by that heavy, dense activity through the downtown core. One of the important attributes of building this O-Train line is that we no longer need to run buses on the surface through downtown for the large majority of travelers, that they'll be traveling on trains, which will be underground, which will not be interacting with left-turning, right-turning cars, stop delivery trucks, customers and pedestrians crossing at intersections. So all routes across the city will get considerably more reliable because they will be no longer operating through the core of downtown, and that will start on Sunday, October 6th.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank your team again for bringing back the number 11 and recognizing that we still need those routes through throughout the communities as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions from councillors? Is there anyone from the Transit Commission who would like to ask a question? Seeing that, thank you very much. Les médias sont maintenant invités à poser une question et à faire un suivi au sujet de la ligne de la Confédération. Media are now free to ask one question and one follow-up related to the Confederation Line. Please note that there will be opportunities to speak with staff following the formal portion of the event. Danielle will just wave her down and she'll be able to provide you with the mic. Joanne Canello, CBC.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. So I'm very surprised to hear things today I've never heard before. Mr. Mahoney, many times you said on the record that RTG had to run not perfectly, but pretty close to flawlessly for 12 consecutive days. Did the train run 12 days in a row at what you would call an acceptable?
Yes, the train ran more than 12 days in a row, and as I've said earlier on, there's criteria for days that they don't meet certain criteria but don't reset the clock. So in this particular stretch, there was 2 days that they didn't meet the thresholds, and those are called repeat days. They do not count for their score, so they had to run, and they got the full 12 days.
Well, my follow-up is 2 parts, actually. One is, we've never heard it that there was supposed to be repeats. You told us many times they're supposed to start again from day 1. Secondly, what are those 2 days that what were causing the problems?
Joanne, I hear you say you're hearing a lot of things. I mean, there are thousands of pages of documentation associated with this $2.1 billion build, and so the trial running was established. There's a team that oversaw it. The targets were set by the city at. Sorry, you're shaking your head. I don't know if.
Go ahead.
Trying to answer your question, in which I actually don't even remember what your question was.
Yeah, my question was. Before today, we were told that when there were problems, that it was not going to be repeated, that it was going to go to the beginning, that they were going to have to start again at day 1. And also, I was just asking, of those 2 days that you said were repeats, what were the problems?
The repeat days were they were over 90% but didn't meet the threshold on certain criteria. And I can specifically remember that Mr. Morgan did share with you that there's a whole bunch of criteria. You had interviewed him, and he talked about different criteria for different scenarios on what constitutes a pass, fail, a repeat, and a reset. There's even a pause clause. So there are many, many parameters within a complicated testing regime, and I gave you just a small taste of some of the metrics. Lots of things that were assessed, and lots of criteria that was established, and we moved through the process. So yes, the trains ran for 12 consecutive days. They exceeded that.
Can I just give it to a colleague? Everyone's here.
Blair Crawford, Ottawa Citizen.
I just wanted to ask a question. Councillor Leeper had asked about the noise abatement program, and I was wondering what can be done now after the build. Can you give us more details of what can be done to ameliorate the noise problems?
So the noise is primarily generated from the interface between the train wheels and the train rail. So the first thing that is planned is rail grinding. So there's kind of a couple of different types of rail grinding you can do. OLRTC, RTG has planned a coarse rail grinding. We're going to be working with them to see about doing a rail polish as well to make sure the finish of the rail surface is essentially as clean as possible. So when the wheel's running over it, it generates as little noise as possible. So that's kind of the primary thing. The second thing, John alluded to, we did bring in some experts to look at what options and how do we retrofit a solution onto the rail now that it's in service. So the second solution we're considering, which we believe will be highly effective, is still subject to test, is a rail damper, essentially a weighted rubber and metal mass that's mounted to the underside of the rail that helps attenuate the noise that's generated at the source. Now that needs to be engineered. You need to specify the damper to match the frequency of noise that you're generating. So we had the specialists come in and give us advice on, do some test measurements to understand what's the frequency of the noise, and to give us advice on kind of other, the vendors to consider and what solutions that will be most effective. And so we're proceeding with rail dampers. I don't have a timeline on that yet. First step will be the rail grinding that's planned, and then the second step will be the rail dampers. Beyond that, there are some options, but we think that those two things in conjunction will be effective at reducing the noise in that particular area of the city.
Thank you. Beatrice Britneff.
I'll sit. Mr. Mahoney, you've said many times on the record over the past year or so that RTG needed to demonstrate it could put out 15 double trains during the morning and night peak hours. I'm wondering when exactly and why the requirement was dropped to 13 double trains.
They did 15 double trains numerous times. I don't have the exact dates here with me. The 13 trains is what we need for customer service. And again, remember, the city has never specified the requirement that we need. We need to make sure we can move the volume of people that we have on our ridership. They have 15 double trains. They have the spare train, and they have the maintenance trains, a total of 17. 15 trains have been used in service as part of this trial running, and it was assessed. And then we also wanted to see how we performed with 13 trains, and so they've met that scenario also. They also do 11 trains on weekends, as an example. At evenings, they step down to 7 double trains, so it's never 15 trains consistently. We have the 13, we have the 15, we have the spares, and they're required to deliver all those and demonstrate that they work, and they do.
I guess as my follow-up, I'm just having trouble understanding when you're saying the city never specified it needed 15. Are you saying that was in the contract? Because you yourself said we want and need 15 double trains out on the peak hours.
Yeah, no, just to clarify, so the way it works is when you read the project agreement, it's posted online, it talks about the outcomes we want. Remember, I always talked about, at the time, we were forecasting 10,700 passengers per hour per direction. That was based on the ridership of, I'm looking at Pat, about 7 or 8 years ago when you had peaked. We've had a decline in ridership, and all the bidders needed to tell us what their train size would be, seating size, configuration, and so forth. So that number, and even the losing bids had numbers in terms of what train configuration they were going to establish. We needed to see that they could do 15 doubles, and they have demonstrated that to us. We do not need 15 doubles for our current service level to deliver service under 5 minutes right now.
Shane Sigway.
Hi, just had a question about the integrated stations. So currently there's 3 integrated stations, 4 if you were to count Saint Laurent Station. Are there plans in the future to further expand that with buildings being renovated or creating more connectivity as new buildings get built in the core or elsewhere?
Mr. Willis's department in planning, any planning that comes forward near or around any of our rail corridors, we work with the developers early on to do integration. So example, at Bayview, there's those 3 towers that are being developed. The developer there is paying $5 million to do a bridge over the Trillium line to connect right into the Bayview station. They saw the value in that. We see the value in that. And it also encourages ridership from those buildings, and we even work with them to look at the establishment of UPass opportunities for those tenants, because those will be rental units.
Thank you.
Any other questions from media?
Rick Gibbons. Mr. Manconi, a question about the budget. I think I heard $35 million will be deducted plus a $1 million penalty from the final check going to RTG. Does that fully represent the costs that you believe are associated with the repeated delays? And if so, has RTG agreed with that number, or do you think you're headed toward some kind of litigation?
So the costs, and it's, you recall we also took money off of the substantial completion payment. The direction from the city manager, Mr. Kanalakis, which I know council fully supported, was that we were to deduct from their payments. I will not comment on whether or not RTG agrees to that. You can ask them that. And again, I won't comment about litigation, but I can assure you that we are deducting the city's costs, all of them, from the final payment, as Mr. Morgan outlined. And then there's also the contract provisions for minor deficiencies and so forth that we're also deducting.
Thank you. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Malheureusement, c'est tout le temps dont nous disposons. City staff will be available for one-on-one interviews. If you are interested, please just meet Media Relations in the corner to the left. Alors, si vous voulez une entrevue avec un membre du personnel, s'il vous plaît, laisse-nous savoir juste là-bas. Merci. Thank you for coming.